Our maintenance crew, bless their hearts, has worked. I think the air conditioning unit knows exactly when our board meetings and work sessions are. It never fails. It was very cool in here until noon, and they were on it, making sure. And this afternoon, it has steadily gone downhill. So I apologize. They did the best they could to cool it off. I think we're going to end up having to just buy a new unit. So I apologize for that.
I agree, and I know everyone here does, that those awards are very well earned, and I've sat through some of the presentations and very impressive. At this time, we will begin the business portion of our meeting. Okay. Now, if I get too fast, just slow down. The first thing on the agenda is the agenda itself. Each of you should have a copy, and I think the latest version of your packet that was sent out would have been a little before lunch today. Everyone get that? Okay. All right. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda as written?
Okay. With the exception of the corrected numbers.
You received by email today the corrected version, and Donna's out. She actually broke her foot this afternoon, so we've had quite a day. So it's not in your uploaded packet on the agenda, but I emailed it to you, and I've placed a hard copy at your table. So that's the one that's being recommended in the packet. I just couldn't upload it to the file.
It replaces the other.
It replaces the other one.
So it's going to fall in under item 3C, under the consent items. Everyone get the extra copy? Do you hear a motion?
So
Motion by Ms. Thompson.
Second.
Second by Mr. Eslinger. Any other discussion regarding the agenda? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll move on to item Roman numero 2, delegation of Sheila Knudsen to address the board regarding the Appleton proposal.
Good afternoon. I appreciate you allowing me to speak again. I always appreciate the opportunity to do that. I do want to say that Dr. Spivey and I have spoken regarding the contract, and I would like to clear up maybe some misconceptions about some of the things that were talked about so that everybody is on the same page. I know Dr. Spivey said she was really disappointed in the way things were handled. Well, the difference of opinions are kind of like whether a glass is half empty or half full. It's the way you look at that. So she and I have different perspectives, and I respect her perspective and the job that she's trying to do as well as what you try to do. I do want to try to clear up some of that. One of the things that I would like to request of Dr. Spivey and you, the board, anytime there is something that is as involved as the Appleton contract, I know a lot of the employees, when they were here for the work session, had commented to me after the session was over that they were hoping to hear some more details about the Appleton contract. I know you had the Appleton folks here for the contract and at a work session. A lot of people don't attend the work sessions. I, like you, would like to see more of the community involved in those things, and we can try to encourage that. Something that is involved as the Appleton contract, I would like to request in the future that you notify the employees so that they'll know what's on the agenda and can attend to hear those, because they have a lot of questions. I did discuss one of those with Dr. Spivey, and that question that the employees have asked me is, if there are contracts, if you approve the contracts with Appleton, what will happen if they want a transfer? If they would like to go to another school, or if they would like to go to another job, since the jobs won't be posted, is that something that they're going to have the opportunity for? Dr. Spivey said that she would look into that she wanted to give the employees every opportunity to apply. That's one of the concerns that we had, is with that contract, if the jobs are given to Appleton, then the employees that are already here won't have those opportunities. So Dr. Spivey did say that she would look into that, and that she would like to give the employees an opportunity if they were interested in another job. So I appreciate that. That was one of the concerns that they voiced with me. Also, one of the things that Dr. Spivey mentioned to you was that retirees could come back and work after they retired, and that they could work for Appleton and not have to just have a part-time job. I know that the retirement laws prohibit them from making over $30,000 a year and from working full-time. They can work part-time jobs, and that is a way to save money without going through Appleton, because they already have their insurance and their retirement, and they work and they don't have those benefits. So, I very much encourage you to look at retirees for those positions. One of the things that I also would like to try to clear up, when I wrote the letter to the board and I said that you were going to be losing local control, what I meant by that was that the board is the one that votes to hire and fire employees. The superintendent makes those recommendations, and you're the ones that do that particular hiring and firing. With a contract from another company, then that takes the board out of that. So I wanted you to understand what I meant when I said that you're losing local control. Also, when we were discussing, I only had 5 minutes as a delegation to discuss with you. I know Appleton was here at a work session and they did a full-fledged presentation. As a delegation, you only have 5 minutes, so there's not a lot of time for me to give you a lot of information. Anytime that I try to address you, one of the things that was discussed is that I never gave any examples of contract employees where things didn't work out, or I didn't give any examples of problems that had occurred with Appleton. Well, anytime I say something or speak in front of the board, I do have information, and I'm glad to share that with you. Glad to give you any information I have, but within a 5-minute time frame, I really didn't have time to do that, to explain all of those things. So at any time, Dr. Spivey and she actually asked me about the things that I had commented about, and we discussed some of the problems. So she and I have discussed that, but at any point in time, if I can answer a question for you, I'm happy to do that, or I'm happy to forward information to you. But in 5 minutes, it doesn't give me a lot of time to do that. I also wanted to talk about the retirement system. And one of the concerns that I have, and that everybody else in the state that is concerned about contracting has, is with the retirement system. I know Dr. Spivey said that you have lost some positions, and that's due to your enrollment. And I understand that. I understand that you're losing positions, and that also affects the retirement system. To me, the difference in that is that you're losing those students, but they're going to school somewhere. So if they've moved to a different community in Alabama, then they're going to earn those teacher units there. And so that's really not losing those units out of the retirement system. But as contracting continues across the state and support positions are contracted out, then it is going to cause a lot of discrepancy with the retirement system. And right now, the retirement system is under attack anyway with the state. So, that's a big concern for me. It's a big concern for AEA. It's a big concern nationwide. Contracting out is a problem that's happening everywhere. And it is a real concern for anybody that draws retirement out of the retirement system. So that's the reason that I was bringing that point up about the retirement system. I did have a question at the last work session. Mr. Eustace said that you had $50,000 in raises out of the general fund. And I don't really understand exactly what you meant by that, of course. That's okay. One of the problems that I know Dr. Spivey's been working on that happened in the past is you have a lot of local units. One of the things that was brought up is the fact that you haven't had anyone else to tell you how to save money. Well, I'm sure that a lot of people would like to make suggestions. One of those things, and I know Dr. Spivey's been working on that, she came in with a lot of local units that were already there. Many times you've compared yourself to the Fort Payne school system. And at the last budget hearing last year, we haven't had any budget hearings this year, they actually had less than 3 total local units. where Scottsboro had about 17. So, that is what's causing a drain on the school system. And I don't want anyone to be without a job. I know none of you want anyone to be without a job. That's something that's going to have to be worked on, and that's one of the reasons that the situation's like it is with your finances. So that's something that is going to have to be looked at in the future, and I know Dr. Spivey has been looking at that. And that's the reason for some of the units that have been lost. But I'm happy to give suggestions. I'm sure the employees are happy to give suggestions. I know in some of my school systems, they have actually discussed not having a block schedule because it requires more teachers if you have a block schedule. That may be something that you want to look at in the future. It's not something you can do now, but that is a money-saving mechanism. Of course, you don't want to get rid of any teachers, so when you have attrition, that would be one way to work on that. I do want to say that there are also misconceptions besides just what we have talked about. Mr. Light had a meeting, Roy Light, with the power board, or actually the water board. And he told the employees, they were discussing their insurance, and he said, well, I want you to know that the Scottsboro schools have taken the insurance away from their employees. And, that's absolutely not true. That's not what you've done. But a lot of times there are people that tell things that aren't accurate. So I want to make sure that you understand that's not something that I'm spreading, and that's not something that I've ever seen it. So if that comes out, I want you to be sure you know that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I want to clarify one thing procedurally, because I know we have made some changes in policy. If a particular board member has a specific question, whether it be not at this moment, but at the right time, if Appleton is the subject, the board member has a specific question for Appleton or for Ms. Cornelius, then you can bring that to my attention, and we'll try to address that, because we do want to get the answer, but we also have to follow the procedures. That moves us to the consent items of Roman numeral 3. Do I hear a motion regarding the consent items?
I recommend the approval of the consent items as attached.
You have a motion?
So,
Motion by Ms. Thompson,
second.
second by Dr. McCurry. Is there any discussion on the consent items? Being no discussion, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. First thing under action items, well, first of all, I'm going to remind everyone that everything that's on an action item agenda has already been discussed at length in work sessions that generally last 2 to 3 hours. So it seems like we go through these a little quickly sometimes. That would be the reason why. Dr. Spivey, do you have a recommendation regarding action item A, personnel?
Yes, I recommend that the board approve the personnel actions as attached.
Heard the superintendent's recommendation. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Esslinger and a second by Ms. Thompson.
Can we just have a second? We have so many fundraisers, it's taking us a while to get to that page.
Sure. Taking a little longer than normal anyway, because we're making sure I write some notes in case we miss something.
Does anybody have the page number?
It was
140.
I've just
been kicked out completely.
Yeah.
Okay, it looks like 142 is where it begins.
I think this is the most fundraisers I've ever seen at one time. Action item start on page 140.
Did you ask for discussion?
Yeah, Yes, we are at the discussion point. Is there any discussion regarding any personal? First of all, did everyone get there? Did we get there? Get up.
I gave up, yes. But I'm familiar with all of this, so it's really not a problem.
I cut mine off. I think it's mine. Do you need a minute or are you good?
Oh, I'm fine, yes,
Okay.
thank you.
All right, is there any discussion regarding item A?
On, number 10, can you just go over what this means about the certification?
This person is finishing their master's in this area, which would give this particular additional certification in December is the target completion date for that, although they're taking the praxis soon. This is an area where, in particular, there are not very many people out there that have that certification, so.
So do we have to apply for OPT for emergencies?
For that particular
But that
area.
lasts a year? and
It will
she-
last a
this
year,
person-
although I think she really, technically really only needed it for half of the year.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Action item 4B, changes to the supplemental positions. Dr. Spivey, you have a recommendation?
Yes, and I recommend the changes as attached, and it's just as this, on the personnel action, this person resigned and has taken a job in another system so that they're being removed from the supplement positions, and that is the only change that's been made. There have been no changes since the work session to this.
That's the highlighted, clicking through.
Yes, and yellow. And so I recommend that the board approve the changes as attached.
Heard the superintendent's recommendation. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Thompson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Curry. Discussion. Being no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Dr. Spivey, do you have a recommendation regarding the applicant contract?
Thanks, Nelson. Can I borrow that sheet of paper back?
Yes.
Yes, I want to recommend the approval of the contract as attached with, there's been some conversation come back and forth with board members. All of you were copied on all of that in really the hour leading up to right before the board meeting, so this has not been adjusted or uploaded. But I would like to add one statement to the contract, which obviously we'll have to get done. I have a PDF of this, so I have to get Appleton to do this. Based on some of the conversation, I'm not sure this is not a moot point anyway, but the statement that I would like to have added would be that what I've stated from the beginning, which is that this agreement between Appleton and Scottsboro City Schools will only be considered for use in filling vacant and/or temporary positions, and the particular positions are already listed in the contract as you have it. So I showed, this was in response to a question that Ms. Thompson had asked, that I didn't see a problem with adding a statement like that, although it hasn't been added. It was, I think, about 4:10 or 4:15 when we were having that communication. So I guess I'm recommending the approval of the contract as attached with that amended statement. And if I happen to have printed it so I could read it if you need to read, it's in bold letters right there.
Motion by Dr. McCreary, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Thompson. I'll open up discussion. Anyone want to go first?
I'll go first. Is that
Ms.
okay?
Thompson?
I had a question about the 90-day out. How would that, if this is approved, how would that actually take place?
My understanding of it, and we do have, they've been faithful to attend our meetings. Ray Brown and Frank Costanza are here if you had a question for them. And I do want them to correct me if I get this wrong, but my understanding of it has just simply been that really in any event with an individual employee or with this overall agreement, if we decided we're not, we don't want to do this anymore for whatever reason, that we simply, I can notify them of that. And then obviously we would have had conversation with the board leading up to something like that anyway. And it's just simply notifying them of that in writing. And then, if they have employees in positions in the system, that's my understanding of why it even takes 90 days. Just there has to be some backing out of just, all the paperwork and all of that. But as we already discussed, with an individual situation, if there were an issue with an employee, that can happen immediately. So I don't know whether y'all are nodding. Did I get that right? Okay.
And as far as us as a board, it would just be a discussion at the works session and then motion by us and recommendation? Or how does it?
We could even end it, without that as far as they're concerned. I could do that notification, but, as I said, I would want to have that discussion with this board. And I put all this in writing to all of you, but just to also remind you that any phasing in of this would be on a very limited and gradual basis, even just to make sure, as we call it, that, I think I told you the first kinds of positions that would be logical to look at are our Title I positions where we utilize mostly retired teachers anyway, and so that would be kind of a win-win scenario there with those particular employees, just to test the waters, but to keep the board informed at every step along the way of exactly how that is working, answering questions, and if there are concerns or whatever, address those as we go.
Yeah, let me comment on that one first.
Okay.
And I could be wrong on this, but my understanding would be if you opted to terminate the contract, if the board basically created the agreement to enter into a contract, then the board would have to also terminate the contract. Because the way the contract is written, it does not have any definite end date.
The actual signature on the contract is my signature and that of the CEO of the company. So the contract will be terminated in that fashion. It's our policies and procedures. The reason we're handling this way, I guess there are some entities that might give, I don't know if a superintendent would ever sign a contract with that without it going before the board, but in our system that would not happen. So those are the two signatures that are on the actual document, although the reason they would be there in our case would be because the board had granted me the authority to do that.
Right.
And basically that's what I'm asking, for the authority to sign the agreement.
And I think the authority to terminate it would be the same.
Yeah.
It would,
If we ask you as a board.
it would be a recommendation to the superintendent to terminate the contract. I think you could choose to not ask for anyone or not bring a position to anyone. It would kind of become a moot point. But to actually terminate the contract that has no end date would have to be an action of the board
That makes sense.
and a recommendation from you.
I have a question.
But I think she has another one.
I actually have one with that. I'll try to be quick. And I see the position categories, of course, on here, and the only reason I'm asking this is because I had someone ask if we're not actually hiring out him, but there's a nurse that would like to have like a leave of absence or something, could we use that for like a substitute position?
We have to look at how it's framed. Remember that subs in and of themselves, that costs the system money. So that's why you don't see that here, because that is one of the categories that would cost us money. So we could look at it, but technically that's still a sub position.
Same thing with us.
And so, based on our analysis of our sub, how we pay our subs and what it would cost us to utilize them, it would cost us money to do that, so it wouldn't make sense to do that.
Can I say one more thing? It's not really a question. I just want everybody out there and anybody in TV land to know that we have tried to go over every single question that we can possibly have, and I know Dr. Spivey's crazy answering all
I am
of our
crazy.
questions.
I don't appreciate you telling all of that, but I am crazy.
But we're trying to do our best to make a really good educated decision on this, and I just want to make that clear. I pass the microphone.
All right. Dr. Perry.
Ms. Corneliuson had stated that some of the employees had asked about their opportunity to transfer, and I'm just wondering if you're prepared to respond to that.
Well, she had, and we did talk, I think we had a very good conversation and shared a lot of information. I think, I wrote down the way she just worded that was that I said I would look into it. What I remember saying, or certainly what I meant to say, was that as it stands now, we have employees ask for transfers. Teachers ask to transfer within a school building from one position to other. They ask to other positions, they ask to transfer in the same position from one school to another. We have people in one job type that ask to be transferred or ask to be considered, or they apply for a different kind of job altogether. So what I explained to her is they would be considered as they always have been, and reminded that, as I stated in the last meeting, that if the board approves this contract, we will, just because a position type is listed in this contract does not mean every time we had a vacancy we would utilize an Appleton employee. To the contrary, we definitely will not be doing that. Certainly not in the beginning, for sure, because we would gradually look and make sure this is even doing what we hope it will do, but that every time, always, we would look at any vacant position or temporary position that we need and make sure that it makes sense for that unique situation, even if it's the same job type from within the same school. It could be that it would make sense to have an Appleton employee in one position and not in the other. So we would always consider that, and as we do now, just because someone is employed in the system doesn't mean they're guaranteed a transfer, but they're always considered, and that same thing would be true in this situation as well. I think I even did say to her, though, if we have employees that are doing a good job, I mean, we obviously want to continue to keep them, and to, if we feel like they would be a good fit in the role they're asking to transfer to, there would be no reason for us not to accommodate that because we want what's best for our school system. So we did it more than I would look into it, but that we would continue that practice.
All right, thank you.
You have any other questions?
That's it.
Mr. Esling?
I wasn't at the work session, I apologize for that. That changed. But I appreciate you, I appreciate you giving us information. Dr. Spivey, I appreciate your hard work. I think my concern has been all along is control. We'll make sure that we can, if we decide this doesn't work, that we can change. And I think you've done a good job of explaining it to me anyway, that you're going to do the best you can to be discreet in what we do, and it's to help the system. And we are in a financial situation, and I know that we all want to be prudent about hiring. And like you said, we've got a lot of local units. We want everybody to keep their job. So I think you've answered my question as far as control, but I just wanted to make sure that we can, as a board, be able to eliminate the contract when we need to, and not just be waiting for a recommendation from you.
Well, I hope that with this and with everything, I hope this board trusts, I feel that you trust that I am trying to take the financial situation that we have and do the very best we can to, we have no choice but to address that issue, but to do everything we can without compromising the quality for our students or our employees at the end of the day, but to make sure that we haven't left anything unturned. So I feel like we've researched this as fully as you possibly could, but I'm also pretty comfortable that if we were to get into it and see something that was unexpected even after all of this, that we can easily back away from it. And I hope this board trusts it. Might be accused sometimes of over-communicating, but I want to make sure you have all of the information. I don't want you to have more information than you want unless you're just like, okay, enough already. But I want to make sure you have enough information, especially in the beginning of a process like this, that you feel comfortable with what's happening. And if you started to voice to me that you're uncomfortable, and that we could stop and address it, and then again hit the reset, and we could just revert back to the traditional way of dealing with our employees, and then look for other ways to save money, which unfortunately for us has involved cutting positions. She mentioned, she's absolutely right, there were 17 local units at the beginning, I think when I came in, and we're down to, we cut between 11 and 12 positions. It was like 11 point something positions this past year, and that is not, those people were needed in our system. And so I don't want to be sitting here doing that again next spring, but we may very well be sitting here again next spring, whether we enter into an agreement with Appleton or not. So this is just one more measure to address that.
Thank you.
My comments on the subject, Dr. Spivey said the other day that not long after she first came here, someone mentioned to her about considering the possibility maybe of entering into contracts. I think she said some board member mentioned that. That could have very well been me. I don't remember if that's what you're talking about or not. But I was trying to find any potential way that we could save some money because we're way into red on cash flow. Over time, popular decisions have been made and not necessarily prudent decisions. And, you know, the decisions you have to make are not always popular, to be true. But one of the people I talked to was Casey Wardinsky over at Huntsville about it, and happened to be over there in a meeting one day, and I talked to him, and contracting was one of the methods where he said they were able to save a lot of money. They were in their financial problems. So, in theory, I support as I said earlier, same position. I support trying something to save some money, trying the contracting on a limited scope. However, in this case, the way the recommendation is made, I don't see that scope being limited to the point, or limited hardly at all, but to the point that I can support it. And I want to make sure everyone understands that if I vote against this, I'm not telling you that I'm against contracting. And frankly, whether it's Appleton or someone else, it doesn't matter to me. I don't know anything about Appleton other than the contract I've read and the presentation I've heard. But I am for trying to find some ways to save some money, because you can't continue to bleed cash forever. I did want the portion of the agreement, if we did it, to be limited to the attrition and things that Ms. Thompson mentioned, and I think that's been handled now. I don't agree, whether it be this contract or any other contract, in entering into a contract for a public organization that has no end date. Okay, there needs to be a definite term that ends. And if you want to renew it, you can renew it, but it needs to end. My suggestion would be like a 1-year termination. If things are going well, you can do it again. You know, contracts typically are void, they don't have a definite end date. The number of positions, I'd like to see those limited. There are 7 slots right now in the recommendation, which is a little more than what originally was hoping for, but I'm fine with that, because if they're needed, they're needed. But what I would like to do is, you know, see some limitations on that. For example, if you took 7 spots, you hired 5 people, 35, or you hired 10 people, 70. At 35, that's about 10% of your workforce. In any organization, when you inject a 10% change in your workforce, that's a pretty significant change to just bite off one whack. If we had some limitations on that, I just feel better about it. How to terminate the contract, in my opinion, if you create a contract by board action, you have to terminate a contract by board action unless the contract is self-terminating. And when one is left an open end date, that I can't agree with. And I'm not sure, that's an applicant decision there. It's not about trust for me, it's about getting it right. We're all going to have different opinions on what is right. I kind of find myself in a weird position because I may have started this by trying to find a way to save money, and I'm going to end up voting against it because I don't think we're at the point where it's right to the point that I support it. If it's right to the point everyone else supports it, I'll get behind it and we'll go forward. See if there was anything else I had here to say about it.
Can I mention one thing that
Let me see if there's anything else first.